Hello there, this is Cindy at cindybdesigns.com. Thank you for joining me today. This is a card that we will be making, only one, 19 minutes long. I do not know what happened to my voiceover and the whole presentation and what's happening here, but I had to reload it and everything like that. So anyhow, we are doing the Florals and Bloom Suite collection today. It's brand new in the 2025-26 catalog, pages 40 to 47, and you're going to see all those examples there, and they tell you how to use the dies. There's 13 different colors in the suite collection, and you get two stamp sets, two sets of dies. I'm turning the page now, as you can see, and there they are. A ton of standalone dies, which we'll be going over later on this weekend, word dies, everything like that. And so today we're going to do a fun fold incorporating this suite collection, and then on Wednesday we're going to play with a little bit more, and then on Saturday either paper pumpkin or we'll go over those flowers again. I mean, it's going to be one or the other. But those are fantastic examples, good scrapbook pages, and everything like that that you can do. So the 13 colors in here are Bubble Bath, Cloud Cover, Darling Duckling, Garden Green, Granny Apple Green, Peach Pie, Petunia Pop, Pretty in Pink, Secret Sea, Shy Shamrock, Strawberry Slush, Summer Splash, and Timid Tiger. So that is what the Sweet Collection looks like in its entirety. Those are the in-color dots that came out this year. All 5 colors are in the Sweet Collection. And there you can see the dies that will cut out that stamp set there. They are both photopolymer. And those 3 images, they're linked together, but when you die cut it out, as you can see right there, you're going to get 3 different images. It'll cut all the flowers separately. So there is our word dies. You're going to have the die itself and then an outline die. You can use them alone, together, whatever you want to do. I mean, this is just such a great suite collection. And this paper has that nice kind of watercolory vibe to it. Oh, and that's the other thing I was going to tell you. At the top of the catalog there, you see how it lists the colors that are in the suite collection. There's a ton more. That only lists 6, but if you flip over the back of your paper stack there, it's going to list all the colors that you need, or not that you need, but all the colors in the suite collection. I brought in Blackberry Bliss for the card base, even though it's not in the suite collection at all, but with the dark and light petunia pop, ombre, and varieties that you see there going on, it worked out beautifully. So I'm going to take you through that designer series paper real quick. Then we will figure out what we want to use on our card today. But there's a great example of just how beautifully watercolor this is. And we'll go over the dies in more detail again next Saturday, or paper pumpkin, and we'll figure out what dies cut from the designer series paper, the standalone dies, how to stack them up together. That's my favorite piece right there. Great color combination I would never would have thought of. So I'll definitely be using that in the near future. And then on the flip side, you have your more neutral patterns that you can mix and match. So for my card, I did end up picking neutral patterns. And we're going to be using that. And again, Blackberry Bliss card base there. And I cut an image panel. And I decided on that pattern there, back and front. I brought in some vellum, pressed flowers, embossing folder, stylish shapes, and I wasn't looking at the screen with the other dice I brought in, so hopefully, stylish shapes and, oh, the fancy borders, that's it. So this time around I have an A2 landscape card, which is going to be 5.5 across by 4.25 down, and I'm taking that piece of cardstock there, also Blackberry Bliss, it's cut to 5.25 by 4, and I'm running that through the pressed flowers embossing folder. And all the measurements, colors, everything like that will be over on the blog at cindybdesigns.com. So, if you don't get them down this time, don't worry about it. So that is the 6x6 piece of the Florals and Bloom Designer Series paper. And I want to make sure that that is going to get cut down to 5.25. Save that, though, on the left for the inside. So our first piece is going to be 5.25, the bottom piece, by 1 3/4. And then I'm going to flip it over, because I really want that purple, those purple flowers in there, the larger ones to show. But I thought rather than cutting that right off the bat, I'm going to grab our die cut from Fancy Borders and then pop that on there. Now, if you look really, really close at that, how I'm laying down that border, do it the opposite way. I wasn't paying attention. It still worked out okay, but it would have been prettier if it was turned upside down. So I got all my flowers in there just the way I wanted to because I do want to see them. And I'm grabbing some low tack tape, going to get that down real quick, run it through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And that is what we're looking like. And I'm going to measure that to 1.25 inches all the way so it all lines up just right. And I was kind of winging it. It's like, what do I want to do? Do I want to put this on top, bottom, make the fancy border die work together? You know, just messed around a little bit there. So I have our image panel back in there, which is the emboss panel. Make sure you have that, you know, right side up. And I am going to take some, snail adhesive or seal, put that on the back, and that is going to be the cloud cover cardstock. It's striped. And I'm going to lay that down at the very bottom using the L shape of my Stamparatus, and then put adhesive on our other piece of designer series paper there, and then go ahead and pop that on top once I refill. And these are so easy to refill. They just come right out of the bag and you put it in just like that. And as you can see, it only took a second. So I'm going to get that on right on top of our cardstock there. And then we'll eventually cover that seam up later on. I have like a little teeny tiny bit of DSP overhang. So I'm going to snip that off and then we will start to put together this card a little bit. So while we are doing that, I am all over the map with this card going back and forth, and I apologize for that. One card, 20 minutes, like I said earlier, I just do not know what happened. So I have Petunia Pop tape there, not tape, ribbon, and that is not in the new annual catalog, but you know what? It's an in color, and I still have the ink, the cardstocks, embellishment, everything. I'm going to keep a hold of that ribbon. We know I don't do bows on screen very often. I don't think I did here either, but the back part of it, you know, I use Scotch tape just to keep that straight. And then a little bit of seal on top to keep it down. And we're going to cover that anyway with a piece of vellum so it won't look wonky or bad or anything like that. Bring in my tweezers, and I like to do bunny ears for my bow there. And I tie it like backwards towards me so that way when I flip it around, it turns out okay. So now I'm just going to monkey around with the bow a little bit, and I guess I did. And that is what we're looking like. That is going to go onto our card base with Stampin' Dimensionals. But remember, this is a fun fold, so we got a couple things we have to do. I'm bringing in a piece of basic white regular cardstock, and I'm taking our image from Pretty Florals, and that is the one that has, it's the one at the very bottom left there. And we're going to ink that up in Garden Green. And the colors I'm using today, I brought them in, but I only ended up using, I switched one out actually. So the bottom is going to be Garden Green. And then I think we're going to do, oh, I want to say a Bubble Bath and a Petunia Pop. So I got that down and cleaned up. And now I'm bringing in one of our images. And there's two different images that have like 3 flowers on them, and they both fit the 2-step stamping in this sweet collection here. But I pulled out the wrong one, but I fixed it at the bottom there. And this is where I decide to, that's Pretty in Pink. This is where I decide that I gotta change colors here because I had to double ink it. I have a very dry, blotchy ink pad. And that's not Pretty in Pink when you look at it because it is double stamped. And then I laid the Petunia Pop on top of that. And despite the fact that it's still really pretty, I wasn't after those 2 colors for this particular card. Let's put it that way. So you see there where I had to switch out that stamp and pull the one that fits exactly in there. And since they're photopolymer, super easy to line up, When I work with reds or any color like that, I like to clean it immediately because you know they will stain when you use reds and blues. And that way I can line them up better if they're just not all junked up. It's easy no matter what, but I'm just neurotic, okay? So pull that stamp back in because again, I'm not liking our bottom color there. And that is going to be, that's Bubble Bath. And my ink pad is kind of wonky there too, but you know what? It worked out. So now I'm going to put Petunia Pop on top of that. Now see, the Bubble Bath is part of the purple family, not pink or red. And so is Petunia Pop, and that's why it worked out so well. I mean, if the pretty in pink, which is, you know, part of the red and pink, if my ink pad was right on, then, you know, yeah, it would have been great. And I'll end up trying it sooner or later. But that right there is the look that I was more so after because when we bring in our card, you can see that it goes great with the designer series paper. And I believe I'm going to get our dies. I did. And die cut our flowers out and then the stem there. As I'm getting all that sorted out, one thing I really like about our die cuts is that they're not so tight to where you can't get a good grasp if you're right on top of it to lay it down and then cut it out. But it's a nice tight cut, but it's not tight to put it on top of the image. Let's put it that way. If you see the entire image in the die cut, then you're good. So largest stylish shapes circle. Cut that out from some vellum paper, some print vellum paper a couple years ago. I do keep that on board, like I said, with the Petunia Pop. I consider it a staple, and we're always going to bring it back. We always do. So for a sentiment, you can see down there at the bottom right where it just did not lay down like I wanted it to. It's kind of chunky on the H. So I'm going to do that again and lay that down with Memento Tuxedo Black. And then I'm going to pull in the largest banner die, the longest one, from Stylish Shapes, and then go ahead and get that die cut out. And you can see it as I'm going to lay it down. I want the end of the sentiment to go more so towards the right side there because I know I'm going to tuck it under something somewhere. And I wanted that wiggle room over to the left. So that's going through the machine. We're going to pull that out and then continue on with this card. Okay, got my craft mat out. Put 3 little teeny tiny dots at the top there that you can see there's a place for that. To put down the flowers atop the stems. They match up beautifully. And, you know, super easy. Then I flip it over and I put Stampin' Dimensionals on the back of the flowers there, especially where I glue them down. And then a couple of the Stampin' Dimensionals, the mini ones, I cut in half to put more so on the stems. Because this is the only thing that's going to be atop of the vellum and the vellum on top of the card with all that texture we have going on there. So there's the reason why I did that. So I'm going to peel that off. That is going to go on the vellum, like I said. And then I'm going to end up, well, I guess I'm going to the all over the map point now. Okay, that's 5 1/4 across by 3 1/2 down. I slowed it down. Want to score in 3 places, okay? On the 3/4, no, the 3 1/4 side, you want to score at 3/8, and that is the mark in between the 1/4 and the half mark, like the half-inch mark, you know, 1/4 and 1/2 inch. Give that a good score line. Move it on over to 1 5/8, and then the 5/8 mark is in between the half-inch mark and then the 3/4 inch mark. And then move it on over again, and that is going to be at 2 7/8, and that is in between the inch mark and the 3/4. You could always flip it around and do like 3/8 again if you wanted to, but just thought I would go ahead and do that. Now, we want to get this folded up like right in the middle. You want that to be your like your mountain, okay? And then those little 3/8 of an inch sides there, that is going to be like your valley. And that's what's going to make our fun fold. It's that little mechanism right there. Now it's cut to 5 1/4. and our card base is 5.5. That way you get some good wiggle room just in case. So I'm laying down some tear and tape on both of those sides. And remember, um, keep track of your mountain side. I mean, you could always flip it around if you wanted to, but it might you might see creases in your paper if you accidentally mess up. So, and there's always more paper. So there's that. I'm getting the tape down. I do want, edge to edge coverage. So that's why I use my snips rather than just, tear it off. So again, I'm getting those creases in there really, really, really super tight because that is going to hold up our card, okay? And we don't want it flopping around. So there's that circle I die cut out. And then I'm pulling off the back of the stamped dimensionals on our flower there, our image. And then I'm going to pop it down right in the middle of that circle there. I'm not paying attention to the direction or the landscape of the script there because it goes in 4 different directions anyway, and it's vellum. So when you want to adhere that to the card, you want to put stamped dimensionals on the back of the image too, because you don't want to put it where the vellum is because it's going to show through. But I'm going to pull that one off there to the left because I need to keep that middle open because it is going right over the ribbon, and you don't want to bulk it up too much and mess with your balance there. And I'm taking a peek at the side, and yeah, we're okay. So once again, pulling off the back of the Stampin' Dimensionals, and I'm going to pop that right down, kind of in the middle, but maybe a teeny tiny bit so towards the left where the bow is, so that way I can fit my sentiment in. And now we're going back to our fun fold part. I'm bringing that in, and remember the peak and the valley thing, or the mountain and the peak and the valley, whatever I said earlier. I'm pulling the stamp or the tape off the back of that, and you want to get it down to the very bottom of your card base there. Um, I had to bring in my Stamparatus to do that because I like to have that part to butt up against because you want this to line up and to work out because it's kind of the structure of your card right there. Got that down, it's all even. You can see where my mountain's coming up there, pulling off our other piece of tear and tape. And with this one, I want it really tight, so I got the magnet in there. It's kind of sort of not holding it down all the way because I got a lot of cardstock. So I used my pokey tool just to help guide that down a little bit. And I'm going to give it another crease with a bone folder. And when you look at that, super sturdy, it stands up great. You can still pack it into a medium-sized envelope with one stamp. It's not going to get over bulky or anything like that. So we are going to put, I have black Stampin' Dimensionals on the back of that, which I like to use when I have darker cardstock. It just looks better rather than all that white showing through. So got them on the back of our image panel there. As usual, going to peel the back of that off. And that panel, again, is 5.25 by 4. And that's going to go down center left to right, top to bottom. And then just 2 more easy steps to this card, and then we will be done. So as we're doing that, the new annual catalog released last week, and also the May Card Club to Go, and that is going to be with textured impressions, which is a great card kit. You're going to do 8 cards, 2 each, 2 like 4 designs and 2 of each. So I'm glad I did that with the sentiment I had there. Cut it down a few times, and this was like a happy accident. It just managed to line up perfectly how I'm going to tuck it underneath that circle there. So it looks really even. And it's okay if you have that teeny tiny bit of that flag going over a little bit over there on the right. But you can see how I did that. And so you get 3 different size dots in here, and those are all the end colors. And now I'm just going to lay them down. I'm going to use like 1 large, 1 medium, and 1 small. And then that is going to wrap it up for this card. I do thank you for joining me today. Be sure to come back on Wednesday for another card made with this great sweet collection using the, the big chunky word dies. And then next Saturday, either, like I said, paper pumpkin or the standalone dies, we're going to wing it. So thank you for joining me. Have a great day, and I will see you on Wednesday.